My name is Shubhangi Sharma, and today I'm going to talk to you about something that China is doing at the G20 meetings, especially with regards to India. So, China may be trying to subvert the G20 summit hosted by India. As it turns out, China does not like to hear or see the phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, inscribed at the entrance of India's parliamentary building and often used by the Prime Minister in various speeches. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam has found its place at the top of the G20 agenda under India's presidency.
हम राष्ट्र को भी एक परिवार के रूप में देखते हैं और विश्व को भी एक परिवार मानते हैं। वसुधैव कुटुंबकम।
But as you know, India has been striving to achieve a joint communique, a leader's declaration, right, which is difficult to achieve in such a torn geopolitical landscape. But India is really making a good effort nonetheless. But we have China. China may be looking to subvert India's efforts. Now, it will not be surprising if China does so. Earlier, China boycotted the G20 meetings hosted by India in Kashmir and in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, it is reportedly opposed to welcoming or endorsing the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam concept. According to an Economic Times report, China opposed the inclusion of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in almost every G20 meeting so far under India's presidency. The Sanskrit phrase from the Maha Upanishad is Indian presidency's G20 theme and essentially conveys that the world is one family. Now, certain reports have claimed that sources have been saying that most participant nations weighed in favor of India. They favored India, and they also said that this is a matter that is the prerogative of the host nation. Now, various reports have been saying that most participant nations weighed in favor of India on the matter, with some even observing that the theme was the prerogative of the presidency and the host nation. In other words, let India decide the theme. Nobody had a problem with that. But China has fought against this Sanskrit phrase tooth and nail. China argues that the G20 documents could not use the term Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in the official text as it is in Sanskrit, which is not one of the 6 official languages recognized by the United Nations. The 6 languages are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, and Russian and Spanish. Obviously, this does not depict the global realities of today and only highlights the need for reforms at the United Nations. China should have known this. How wise did China expect to come off by writing off Sanskrit, the ancestor of most Indian languages? Now, sources say that because of China's opposition, the final G20 document only contained the phrases English translation, one earth, one family, one future. Despite this, the Sanskrit phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam was retained in the logo and the letterhead of all the documents affiliated with the G20 summit. So, let's talk about this problem raised by the Chinese, and only the Chinese. This is an incredibly petty grouse raised by the Chinese. While no other nation has a problem with this phrase, why is China so unsettled by it? After all, it only translates to the world is one family. What can be the problem with that? It is a powerful and unifying message. Well, what irks China so much that it has opposed this in every meeting? The answer lies in something deeper. China's deep-seated insecurities, given India's rising stature on the global stage and the growth trajectory that India is poised for, is one of the reasons that China is just uncomfortable allowing India to take such a big leadership space. Perhaps China sees this dynamic as a clash of 2 great ancient civilizations rising to the top once again, and it is afraid that India, still rooted in its culture, commands far more soft power in this space than the deracinated Chinese communists can dream of. And really, this is my opinion, that Chinese communists have given up religion, they have given up culture a long time ago. Because of that, if they want to bring back, or if they want to leverage or use their ancient civilization to build some soft power, it's not too natural. When it comes to India, which has never dropped its culture, it still follows the same. It is very important for India to use this as a soft power tool, and India successfully does so because, well, it is very natural. Now, there's another problem for Xi Jinping. At a time when Prime Minister Modi, while taking a tough stand against China for its refusal to settle the ongoing border issue, he is being embraced globally, and frankly on both sides of the aisle. You can factor in the maneuvers between Russia and the West. Xi, meanwhile, is an unelected dictator, right, who remains caught up in his adversarial image, and he has been busy buying good press. Well, cue the news click issue. That can make any man insecure, and Xi Jinping may not be above it. Now, there's also an unease over a challenging future. China's discomfort may also have something to do with a harsh reality that it has to deal with. At a time when reports of China's demographic decline having officially begun, India surpassed its population and is projected to continue growing until 2064. A shrinking and aging population worries China deeply, as it may jeopardize its superpower status going forward. As per an analysis done by the United Nations World Population Prospects of 2022, India's population is expected to grow up to 166.8 crores, while China's population would shrink to 131.7 crores by 2050. So, there is also another angle to this. India's median age is just 28, very young. And this is 11 years younger than China's 39. Further, according to Goldman Sachs, India has the window to get it right in terms of setting up manufacturing capacity, continuing to grow services, continuing the growth of infrastructure. Now, India's dependency ratio is also going to be among the lowest among large economies for at least the next 20 years. That means there will be a lesser burden of non-working population on India's working population. These are all good conditions for business. This is not the case, however, with China, whose demographic landscape is skewered by the generational impact of its infamous one-child policy. At the same time, India is projected to become the second largest economy by 2075 after China, closing the GDP gap to just $5 trillion. All signs show that India's moment in the 21st century may have finally arrived, and China's insecurities are loud and clear. China's opposition to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam therefore appears rooted in a mix of insecurity, global power dynamics, and questionable arguments, shedding lights on its complex motivations, right? It is expected that China will try more such tricks to subvert India's plans as it prepares to host the G20 leaders this September.